mailbag time here on Ravens Rundown. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us as we answer your questions. Hot off the press on your Baltimore Ravens as week number 1 of free agency is in the books. What is ahead for this Baltimore Ravens team? We'll discuss all the possibilities and more coming up on today's show. We will go ahead and get to our first question in a moment. But before we do, getting closer and closer to 16,000 subs on the channel. Less than 200 subs away from reaching that next milestone. Anytime the Ravens make a move, we're going to talk about it here on the channel. The latest happenings in your favorite team, we got you covered each and every day here on Ravens Rundown. We're talking news and rumors, trades, free agency, getting you ready for the draft, and more. Lock us in. Subscribe now for free. You'll be glad you did, and we'll get started with today's show. First question coming in from Sad Big Ben. What are your expectations for Derrick Henry this year? So let's make one thing clear. The version of Derrick Henry that the Baltimore Ravens are getting is not the guy that rushed for 2,000 yards back in 2020. Okay? He's not going to go off for that in 17 touchdowns again. But he's still going to be very, very good. Last season, played every game, had over 1,100 yards, 12 touchdowns, behind an awful offensive line in Tennessee, and an offense where they stacked the box, that teams were not afraid of Ryan Tannehill and Will Levis, and yet Derrick Henry was still fantastic last season. Now you get him in this offense where teams are looking at, all right, what do we do to defend this Baltimore Ravens offense when they got Lamar at quarterback, they got all these weapons at receiver with Flowers and Mark Andrews and company? What do we do? You keep your defense, your opponent guessing. Keep them in check. And I think that's going to greatly benefit Derrick Henry. And then as far as the role goes, too, he is going to be your bell cow, your primary rusher. I would be surprised if Lamar leads this team in rushing again. He's going to be kind of the thunder back, and then Keaton Mitchell's going to be the lightning back. And I think it's going to be a terrific 1-2 punch, and you're going to like what you see from Derrick Henry in this Ravens run game. So I expect a very good year from Derrick Henry, similar numbers to what he did last year, but to be the leading rusher for this Baltimore Ravens team, and I think he's going to have a great year. So let's ask you guys, was Derrick Henry the best signing for the Baltimore Ravens in free agency so far to this point? Was it him? Was it Madubuike's new deal? Was it somebody else? Well, in the comment section, let us know what you think on our pinned comment today. Y for yes, N for no, if Derrick Henry was the best signing or not. Next question from Lamar is Elite wants to know, what is the ceiling for Justin Madubuike? So now that we're a week in with the Justin Madubuike contract locked in of him getting 4 years, $98 million, the big question that was thrown out there, if you will, when it comes to Madubuike was, did the Ravens overpay for one great year? Is this going to continue for Justin Madubuike? Can he build off of what he did in 2023? Because let's face it, folks, if Justin Madubuike takes a step back, if he goes back to the player that he was in 2022, then it's not going to be worth the $98 million. But if he builds off of the 13-sack year he had last year and continues to be that dominating force and looks like one of the best interior defensive linemen in all of football, then you're in great shape. Then you would gladly live and pay with the money that you paid Madubuike of that $98 million. I am very confident about Justin Madubuike. I don't think last year was a fluke at all. I think he's going to step up and have another good year, and that the version that we saw of him in 2023 is here to stay. How would you grade the extension for Madubuike and the Baltimore Ravens? I thought it was a solid move. I loved it. You locked in one of the best interior defensive linemen for 4 years. I go with an A. Give me your grade in the comment section. You brought down the cap number 2 from what it would have been from the franchise tag as well. A, B, C, D, or F, weigh in. Let us know what you think. Flock Fandom wants to know, will the Ravens regret letting Patrick Queen go to the Steelers? Flock Fandom, thanks for the question there. You know, when I look at Patrick Queen, all of us can sit here and say Patrick Queen is a talented football player that was a difference maker for the Baltimore Ravens in his career, especially the last 2 seasons when he got to play alongside Roquan Smith and play in Mike McDonald's system and all of that. We all anticipated that Patrick Queen was going to leave. That was not the surprise. That was not the shocker for the Baltimore Ravens. What the surprise and the shocker is that he went to the enemy, that he went to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that he's going to play a significant role on that Steelers defense, which is a pretty dang good defense before even Patrick Queen showed up. Now the Steelers are looking at potentially having one of the best defenses in football with him part of the equation there. I don't think that the Ravens regret at all letting Patrick Queen walk. They were preparing for this with Trenton Simpson set to take over that spot. But it is one of those things you're like, man, I really wish we didn't have to face Patrick Queen twice a year. It's not that he left, but the fact that he went to that team. Let's just say for all intents and purposes, what if Patrick Queen would have gone to the Carolina Panthers? Nobody's batting an eye. We move on and act like nothing ever happened. But now that he's played for Pittsburgh, this is going to be right in our faces, and facing him twice a year doesn't sound great. It's not ideal, but it kind of is what it is. I don't think you're going to regret it, but you might be frustrated at times, if that makes sense. Mr. Ray Lewis, check it in the chat, says, can the Ravens beat the Chiefs with their new additions? So the theme that I've been talking about this week that we're going to continue to push on this show for the next couple of months, if you will, is how do the Baltimore Ravens stack up with the Kansas City Chiefs? Because I think right now, almost everybody, if you were to ask, who do you think is going to be in the AFC Championship game next year? They would say the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. And last year we saw the Kansas City Chiefs go into the bank and steal the Baltimore Ravens lunch money and beat them in their own house to go to the Super Bowl, win their third Super Bowl in the Patrick Mahomes era. They're trying to three-peat and go for three in a row and all that. And so if you're the Baltimore Ravens, what you got to be thinking about is, all right, how do we go from here? It's not about are we good enough to beat Pittsburgh and Cincinnati and Cleveland and Miami and Buffalo and Houston and those teams. It's are we good enough to get past the Kansas City Chiefs and win the AFC? That's the goal in mind if you're the Baltimore Ravens at this point. When you're breaking the huddle in practice, you're saying beat KC. It's all about being better than the Kansas City Chiefs. Right now, the Ravens aren't better than the Chiefs, but I don't think that they're done quite yet. I think we're going to see the Baltimore Ravens make another big-time move specifically on offense in that receiver room sometime in the next several weeks. I don't know when, but I think they will. And then we can have that discussion. Right now, they're not better than the Chiefs, but they potentially could be down the road. What's your confidence level in the Ravens right now? This is a good football team. I think they're better than what they were to begin the offseason for certain. What's your confidence level? I like this team a lot. I'll give it a solid grade. I'll give it about a 7 personally. What's your confidence level? Weigh in that comment section. Let us know what you think. Ravens fan for life with one final question wants to know, who are some potential targets for the Ravens at 30? So with the Ravens picking so late in the first round, obviously a lot of it depends on just how the board works out. Who is going to slip that maybe you didn't see coming? And the names that come to mind, if potentially here are going to be available, you got to talk about Chop Robinson. The Ravens obviously could use some pass rush help. Chop Robinson would be a good fit. Receiver-wise, I think there's 3 names in particular. You got the Texas receivers, Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy is a possibility. Keon Coleman. 1 or 2 or maybe all 3 might be available for the Baltimore Ravens when they pick there at the number 30 spot. And then we know the Ravens need help at corner. Kalen King is a possibility as well. I know the Ravens really like Cooper DeJean and had a meeting with him, but I don't think he's going to be available at 30. If you're going to go for a guy like Cooper DeJean, potentially you might have to trade up while he's around. But Eric DeCosta's done a really good job when it comes to the draft of finding talent, and they'll take advantage of what's available for them there at 30. Thanks for joining us here on Ravens Rundown. For more coverage throughout the offseason, subscribe now for free, and we'll see you next time.